There's a wonderful word, not that you would use very often unless you were Prince Andrew and then yearning to do something that apparently you can't do, which is sudorific. It comes from the Latin word sudor, which means sweat, and facere, which means to do or to make. And you'll also find it in Italian, but sudorific. I think it's a wonderful word anyway. And there was a most extraordinary conversation.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to.
This is GBnews, and this is a program with a person called Andrew Pierce and Bev Turner. And I remember doing recordings for teaching people English as a foreign language. And I used to do so many of these recordings, and sometimes the group of actors I was working with would get the giggles in the recording booth because we were working so many hours. And once you got the giggles over something, it was impossible. I'm a dreadful giggler, and I would easily set someone else off, or they would set me off. And the people on the other side of the booth who were monitoring what we were doing often didn't know what was so funny. Often you don't know what's so funny. However, there is a difference between laughing with people and laughing at somebody, and this is an example where two rather smug newscasters laugh at somebody they've invited onto their programme. Now, he's wrong, of course. He's absolutely wrong, Alex de Koning. He's completely wrong. He's picked up a story. I think the story was actually about the Iberian Peninsula, and so he's got the statistics wrong, but it's the way he is humiliated and left on camera while these two individuals laugh at him. It's cruel. It's really, really cruel. Anyway, look, watch this, and let's just play through it. You'll see what I mean.
Well, let's speak now to another Just Stop Oil activist, Alex de Koning, who joins us. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, you haven't convinced Keir Starmer, have you? And he's the Labour leader.
Well, he has actually adopted the demand of no new oil and gas and coal. So we have convinced him in this regard, but he has backpedaled very sadly on his £28 billion a year green pledges. So obviously we need to still keep his feet on the fire.
He's also criticised your tactics, which I think most people in the country would agree with are disruptive, unpopular and counterproductive, Alex.
I mean, doing disruption for disruption's sake is obviously terrible, and there's no excuse for that. But this is not disruption for disruption's sake. We're trying to raise the fire alarm. And when you hear the fire alarm, you shouldn't just stay in the building and debate about tactics. You should get out the building, call the fire brigade, stop pouring oil on the flames, and find a fire extinguisher. Don't you agree?
Okay, how long have we got, Alex? I mean, literally, how long do we have until the planet is unrecognisable? How urgent is this?
It's a really good question. It's not as simple as that. It's not going to be like a light switch that turns off and suddenly...
But things are already getting so much worse. I mean, have you seen in New York, the smoke? People couldn't leave their house because they couldn't breathe. 10 million people couldn't leave their house because they couldn't breathe because of wildfires in Canada. 33 million people in Pakistan last year had their lives completely decimated by floods. Their houses, their pets, their wedding photos washed away in one go. The same with the floods in northern Italy. Same with the 40-degree heat wave here, where 1,700 people died in 2 days.
What here? Did you say?
Yes, last summer in 40 degrees.
How many people did you say died? We just had a few sound issues there. In the UK, you're attributing how many deaths to climate change over a couple of days?
During our 40-degree heat wave last summer, 1,700 people died.
Where did you get that figure from?
Well,
where did you get that figure from?
Widely reported.
No,
and I think
where
it's
did
even
you
from
get
the
it from?
government's own
Widely
report.
reported. What respected body did you get that figure from?
I think that's from the government's own reports, but if you want to talk about this, the UN...
Alex, sorry, you can't come on here and say, I think. You're making a very serious claim. You have to tell us where you get that information from. So let's try again.
UN.
Where did you get it from?
The UN has said that 4 million people have
No,
died
we're
as a
talking
result
about
of
what you said about Britain. You said 1,400 and so died over 2 days. So where did you get that?
All right, if you want to play that game, let me Google. I'll
In
find
fact,
it
the
in
real
2 seconds.
story was that on the 22nd of July 2022, the World Health Organization said that a heat wave caused 1,700 deaths in Spain and Portugal, not in the UK.
2 seconds.
We haven't got time for you to Google it, but
You
just
don't know.
just explain
Doesn't
to me,
know.
Alex. But just explain. So those people, those British people, you're saying dropped dead because our climate emergency is such. What do they die from? What did they actually die from that was related to the heat in 2 days?
So that figure was from the World Health Organization, which I hope you can agree is a respected body.
I don't
They
actually.
died. From,
I don't. I think the World Health Organization has absolutely baked in profit motives and control motives to want us to believe all of this. But but we all want British people to live a good, healthy life. We don't want 1,700 people dropping dead over 2 days.
Where did they get it from,
Why did how did climate kill these people?
Okay, so there's a variety of different factors, right? In this case, it was because of the extreme heats. People died from heat stroke. When the temperature gets hot enough, for example, when it gets so hot that the sweat no longer cools you down, you literally boil in your own sweat. I know that sounds like complete exaggeration.
It does
but
actually.
When it gets...
I'm afraid it does sound like exaggeration. I've never heard of
Does it
anyone
sound
boiling
like
in their own
exaggeration to
sweat.
say that people die in fires?
I've never heard of
I mean,
anybody
if you
boiling
go
in
back
their
to
own
the
sweat. What,
we have
boiling
to
to
go, like,
death?
if there's a wildfire, people die from it. If
How
there's a
long do you-
flood, people die from it. If there's
How
a
long do you have
hurricane,
to
people
boil
die.
for before you die?
This shouldn't be so funny. Listen, what we're
How many
finding.
people are dying and you're literally laughing?
Well, because
No.
you're making silly
No.
claims.
They're
Boiling to death.
Not
Listen,
silly
and
claims
also,
to say
if
that
there
the
are-
climate
if there are-
crisis causes wildfires.
If there are elderly people who might be vulnerable in the very, very hot weather, and I agree with you on that, then those care homes, the hospitals might be looking after those people, have a responsibility
Do you
to
have to-
keep those people cool and to provide air
Do you think
conditioning.
you boil to death as long as you boil an egg?
But
I'm sorry, Alex.
listen,
I think you're bringing.
Alex.
I think you need to. If you don't mind me saying, Alex, I think you need to grow up a bit actually, because this is ridiculous.
Oh, really? Really?
Alex,
Okay, well, I appreciate your opinion,
Yeah, well,
but
I'm just
literally
trying-
10 million people could not
You've
leave
got
their home
1,400
in
people
New
died.
York
You don't know
for
who
several
told you
days
that. And now
because
people are
because
boiling to
they
death
couldn't
in
breathe
their
from
sweat.
outside.
They're boiling to death. Perhaps they should put more deodorant on.
Alex, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to have a grown-up conversation with you. The impact of Just Stop Oil protests is that you are alienating. This is the thing. We find you kind of hilarious. When a man goes onto the court at Wimbledon and throws a jigsaw around, it doesn't make us buy into your perhaps well-intentioned ambition to save the planet. You're losing the
It's
room,
not an
mate.
opinion to say that the climate crisis is killing people.
Why
I
a
can't believe
jigsaw?
I'm having
Alex,
this conversation.
Alex, why a jigsaw? I don't think I've ever seen a jigsaw gaily distributed around a tennis lawn in a high-profile climate change protest captured on TV. What a waste of a jigsaw. It was a waste of a jigsaw.
Do you at least agree that when there are wildfires and there's floods and there's droughts, it's harder to grow crops?
No,
That means we're going to have
You're
more
going to give me
food
sleepless nights in case I
insecurity.
boil to death in my sweat. Alex, we're going to have to let you go because we're running late to the headlines. Alex, thanks for coming.
If anybody wants a reason to disapprove of GBnews, this is it. This is it. Because however this was manufactured, a producer should have been in charge. A producer should have gone through what Alex was going to say before he said it. They should have checked his facts. This isn't an interview that had to be done off the cuff. This was an interview that could be done today, tomorrow, next week. The story would still be relevant. And it's been stage managed so that these two individuals, I can't even remember their name now, Andrew Pierce and Bev Turner, humiliated a boffin off the street on live TV, a public service broadcast and it's simply unacceptable. This falls under the remit of Ofcom. This is bullying on air. This is Alex demands and should receive proper aftercare following this sort of abuse on air nationally. And it doesn't matter whether they've got an audience of 1 or an audience of 2,000. People should switch off because of this. Those two individuals, they have behaved like monumental, unprofessional shits. This is a form of television which is like sticking your head down a lavatory and watching the ordure slip away. And that's exactly what should happen. We should flush this television program out of existence. If this is the standard, it should never happen again. And those people who promote this segment as a giggle are equally wrong. This segment, I'm putting this up here to demonstrate just how bad GBTV is. Just how bad it is. And they should have this fellow, they should have Alex on air again to apologize to him publicly. And if they're not up to that, I think Alex should write to Ofcom. And if he contacts me, please, by all means, do. If you see this, Alex, please contact me. I will be very happy to soldier on and make your case for you. This should never happen.